when President Trump signed the executive order establishing America's first strategic Bitcoin reserve. The world saw the headlines, but they didn't see what was buried inside the document. Behind the patriotic language, behind the innovation talk, behind the celebration from crypto influencers, there was a clause, one line, that quietly gives the US government a level of power over digital assets that no one is prepared for. Most people never read it. They saw the photo op, they saw the rally, they saw Bitcoin spike. But the monetary lawyers, the policy veterans, and the financial historians, they went silent. Because the last time a clause like this appeared in a presidential order, it led to the largest wealth transfer in American history, and now it's back. This leaked section changes everything: how Bitcoin can be acquired, who controls it, how it could be priced, and what the government can legally do next. And once you hear what the clause actually says, the reaction from inside the Treasury, and the move the administration made right after signing it, you'll understand why insiders are calling this 1933 in slow motion. What Trump did next, and what this unlocks, will shock people when it finally hits the mainstream. Stay with me until the end. And if you love uncovering the financial truths nobody else will explain, make sure to subscribe. This story is only getting started. On January 23, 2025. Something happened in Washington that sent shockwaves through every corner of the financial world. Cameras flashed, reporters cheered, and crypto Twitter practically melted down. President Trump stepped up to the podium, held a single sheet of paper in the air, and announced that the United States would create the world's first strategic Bitcoin reserve. The headlines were instant. America embraces Bitcoin. A historic moment for crypto, a new era for digital assets. People were calling it the most bullish day in Bitcoin's history. But the people who actually sat down and read the document, the lawyers, the policy analysts, the monetary historians, didn't celebrate. They went silent. Because buried inside the patriotic language and innovation slogans was a clause so sweeping, so powerful, and so familiar that a handful of experts all said the same thing. We've seen this before, and the last time a US president used language like this, it triggered the largest wealth confiscation in American history. To understand what this order really does, and why it might be the first move in a much bigger strategy, we have to go back. Not to 2017, not to 2008. But to 1933, when the US government executed a financial maneuver so drastic it changed the meaning of money itself. The blueprint from that era is now quietly being revived piece by piece. But before we rewind the clock, we need to look at what this order actually says. Most people never read beyond the headlines. They see a viral tweet, an influencer screaming bullish, a price chart exploding, and they move on. But the fine print tells a completely different story. The order is officially titled Strengthening American Leadership in Digital Asset Infrastructure. It sounds harmless, ambitious, patriotic even, but titles are marketing. The truth always hides in the sections nobody pays attention to. The first part declares that digital assets are now essential to U.S. national security and economic stability, and that the federal government must acquire them, hold them, and manage them as part of America's strategic reserves, not support private ownership, not encourage innovation, acquire, hold, and manage. That's the kind of language governments use when they're preparing to build storage vaults, set official prices, and centralize control over an asset class. Then the order shifts into what it actually empowers the Treasury to do. It arms them with sweeping authority, the ability to design national-scale acquisition programs, create massive custody systems, and even establish official valuation methods for digital assets. That last phrase is especially important. Official valuation methods. It means the government now has the power to declare an official Bitcoin price that could differ completely from the market price. That is exactly what they did with gold in 1933, and then comes the part the media completely ignored. The methods the government can use to accumulate Bitcoin. The order allows the Treasury to gather it through seizures, through accepting it as payment for fines or settlements and keeping it, and through what the document calls strategic market operations. In plain English, they can buy as much as they want, whenever they want, without disclosing anything. Seizures already happen. The government already controls more than 200,000 Bitcoin from criminal cases. But accepting Bitcoin as payment and holding it instead of auctioning it is new. It means agencies can quietly accumulate Bitcoin directly from the public and strategic market operations. That's the same phrase used to justify open market moves in gold and foreign currencies. And this is where it becomes unsettling. Because this structure, declare an asset essential, authorize acquisition, build custody, establish an official price mechanism, is identical to the four-step playbook used during the gold confiscation of 1933. Back then, the government began by announcing that gold was critical to national stability. Today, Bitcoin gets the same label. The next step in the 1930s was giving the Treasury full authority to acquire gold. That just happened for Bitcoin. After that came mandatory delivery, forced handover. That hasn't happened yet, but the framework is now in place. And finally, in 1934, the government revalued gold, setting an official price that massively increased the value of the reserves they had just collected. Now look at what the leaked clause inside Trump's order actually says. Digital assets deemed essential to the national economic interest may be subject to strategic acquisition requirements. That phrase is not new. It's the same coded legal language used in the 1930s to justify mandatory delivery. It doesn't mean confiscation is happening now, but it means the government now has the legal authority to do it if they choose. So why would the US government want to copy the gold playbook using Bitcoin? Because America is drowning in $37 trillion of debt. Interest payments alone will hit $2 trillion per year within the next 2 years. There is no mathematical path to repayment. The only solution that has ever worked is the one governments have used for centuries. Devalue the currency while revaluing the hard asset backing it. In 1933, the hard asset was gold. In 2025, Bitcoin is becoming the digital equivalent, the new base layer of global monetary power. Imagine this: the US quietly accumulates 1 million Bitcoin through seizures, fines, purchases, and strategic acquisition. Then, in a national address, the president announces the new official price of Bitcoin, $1 million per coin. Instantly, the value of America's reserves skyrockets. Combined with a gold revaluation, the government wipes out trillions in debt without paying it off. Elegant, brutal, and completely legal under the new order. But here's the part the media will never tell you. If Bitcoin goes from $100,000 to $1 million, it's not Bitcoin that changed. It's the dollar that collapsed. Your savings lose purchasing power. Prices rise. Wealth consolidates upward. The middle class pays for the reset. Most people are celebrating right now because they think the government finally embraced Bitcoin. But the people who read history, the people who study monetary law, the people who know the government doesn't abandon successful playbooks, they already understand what's coming. This executive order isn't the end. It's the beginning. And over the next 24 months, you're going to watch each step unfold publicly, quietly, and inevitably. If you want to understand the signals before they hit the news, if you want to see the real pattern behind the headlines, subscribe, because this story is only getting started.